Veterans are the lifeblood of American freedom, serving in some of the harshest situations to secure that freedom across the globe. This is the Lounge with Legends show, celebrating their transformation from battlefield to business. The Lounge with Legends show with Marty the Moac Martinez and James A. Phelps, a.k.a. Spartan 6.
All righty, here we are. We're back.
We're not live?
We are live. Oh. So those of y'all that are regulars might notice we missed an episode last week, and that was because James and I were coaching with Story Brand, and I forgot to schedule the show, and James reminded me.
Who forgot to schedule?
I forgot to schedule it, and James reminded me on day 2 of our coaching seminar, like, hey, aren't we supposed to be live now? I'm like, darn it. So my bad. Thanks for those of y'all that are sticking with us and tuning in, even though we missed an episode. But we are here. We are live, and we have an amazing guest today. But before that, we get to that. What's been going on in your world, James?
Well, I was actually going to say we had such an amazing guest today that we had to prepare for 2 weeks to have him on here. That's what I was thinking.
That's what I should have said. Yes,
that's exactly what you should have said.
Oh, Nick, already talking trash over here. I messed up, Nick. So, but
the beauty of it is we're recording this. So I've got you to admit twice in this beginning of the episode that you have made 2 mistakes. This is amazing. This reminds me of the last time when I was your boss.
Yes. Way back then, 22 years ago. But so this is what else has been going on though? We did the Story Brand coaching. You've got you got some big stuff coming up in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking. I guess I don't know if the official announcement came out yet, but I'll be speaking at Vegas with EXP Real Estate. So I'll be speaking at that event. If you're in Vegas, May or October the 13th and 14th, then look me up. You might actually run into somebody, and I promise I'm not short. I might be shorter in person. Sorry. I apologize up front.
Yeah, it's excited. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited for our guest today. We've got Fran coming on. Amazing podcast. It's absolutely amazing. It was really cool. I had already seen a lot of Fran's stuff with the Jedburgh podcast, but it just happened to be we were speaking at PodFest and he was emceeing the room, and I saw him walk in, and I'm like, hey, I know this guy. And then we had Green Beret Media. We had Smurf there recording my stuff, and he recorded Fran's as well. So it was just a bunch of cool people in the same room, and it was a military breakout session. So it's pretty cool.
I'm bummed I didn't get to go to the PodFest, but from what everyone told me, Fran was amazing.
He was amazing.
Fran was amazing. I heard he dropped the mic before you took the stage, and then he was such a hard act to follow that you just went out there, and I think everybody went into the breakouts at that point. But no, on a serious note, I wish I'd have been down there to meet face to face. But this is going to be a great episode. He's going to be able to tell us so much about how the struggle of actually doing the consistency of doing a podcast. He could probably talk.
It's an amazing podcast. You got to check it out. But I'm ready to bring him on. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Does it again. It favors James for some reason. Going on 2 years now. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being our legend this week, Fran.
Guys, I'm fired up. Thanks for having me. I mean, this whole intro sequence, there's lions, there's roars, there's an airplane with decisive action. I think I need some of those. What are those, foodies? I've never seen those, but they look awesome. You're admitting faults and firsts, so you owe beer to not only James and me for being on the show when you admitted that, but probably everyone who's listening to. And this guy's going to Vegas, so man, I don't know how I'm going to live up to the Open.
So no, man, I was telling James the other day, I was like, it was so random that we winded up speaking in the same room at PodFest, and we had been talking about you from like, have you seen this guy's content? It's amazing, all the stuff he's doing. He's like, we were talking about your special vehicle that you use there. And I don't want to ruin it for everybody because I want to talk about that, how that came about. But it was, like I said, we walk in the room and there you are. And I was like, this is pretty cool. This is pretty random that we just happen to be there. We're all just meeting each other for the first time after coming out of COVID, So.
Well, I was escaping Disney World. So PodFest, everyone's like, are you going down to PodFest? I'm like, nah, I'm going to Disney World, but I'm taking a break to go to PodFest because that was the only way that on Memorial Day weekend that I was going to get my family and my wife to let me go to PodFest was to say, hey, let's go. You guys go to Disney. I'll go to PodFest and I'll catch up with you, like in the last day. So I don't know. I think I made out better.
You know who else did that too? Glenn Lundy, but he went to SeaWorld with his family. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, we saw Glenn Lundy at the one of the evening networking events where Chef Rush was, and I looked over. I was like, "Hey, there's Glenn," and it was pretty. Everybody was there at that event. But it is interesting when they put these conferences at great locations, but just at interesting times like Memorial Days. Like, how are you going to justify that one? We've got Military Influencer Conference coming up, and that's Halloween weekend and my daughter's birthday. And I'm like, oh, come on. I've got my ticket. How am I going to do this? So, yeah, trying to figure that out. And Vegas isn't really a place that I want to take the family to, the littles. So, but that's awesome. So let's get into this, man. So you are Army. So we're bringing it back to Army. We just did all the services in 4 weeks straight. 5 weeks. I missed a week. Sorry. So you're Army.
Did you do the Coast Guard? Did you do the Coast Guard?
No, we haven't done Coast Guard. We haven't done Space Force yet. We're still looking for Coast Guard and Space Force. So if you know anybody, Fran, push them our way.
I think I know one of each. I could probably help out.
Oh, do it. Let's do it. And I know James is trying to get Johnny Kim. That guy's amazing. Have you had him on your show yet?
No, I haven't.
No, I'm expecting
he's in space.
Yeah. But so what was the call to serve? What was the call to the Army?
The call to serve was not necessarily supposed to be a call to serve. I wanted to be a journalist. So I went to undergrad at Boston University, and I said, Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, Peter Jennings, those are the coolest 3 guys that walk the face of the earth. Those are the network news anchors. And that was what I wanted to do. And I looked at these guys, I watched them every night, as a kid, and then going to college, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I have no idea. I was a varsity athlete on the men's rowing team and trying to stay out of trouble. And I studied journalism, and the 9/11 happened. Well, 9/11 was my junior year, and I watched the way they covered this, and I was like, man, like these guys, I think Tom Brokaw went for like 3 days straight, before he was like actually off air and like went home. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is impact. And so for about another year, I said, I'm going to be a war correspondent. Like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to cover these wars. I'm going to watch these guys. And then I was watching Geraldo Rivera, and he was out, and I don't remember, we'd gone into Iraq at some point after that. And I don't remember if he was in Iraq or Afghanistan, and we got in a firefight. He's with a Marine or an infantry squad, and he pulls out a gun. Now, I mean, like, reporters are in no way, shape, or form supposed to have a gun. And he pulls out a gun, and he starts running. He falls down, and then he's getting yelled at by like, the whole infantry squad. You idiot! What are you doing? Like, a gun. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, oh hell no, no way am I going to be that guy on the battlefield. I need to be with the other guy making the impact. And then I'd watched the Green Berets went in Afghanistan. They had beards and long hair. They were riding horses, calling them, the power of the U.S. Air Force, and seeking revenge on the injustice that was done on our country. And I said, that is what I got to go do. And so when I graduated, I went to officer candidate school and spent the next 13 years in the Army.
Sweet.
That's
the best one. That's the best one ever right there.
Let's say it's pretty high up there, man. I would say it's probably the best, one of the best ones. It's because James, it was go to war, go to jail. That's how James came in, just like the Cajuns.
Still might be.
Hopefully they don't have me back. I don't want to go back.
To jail or to the Army?
Oh, well. Oh, wait. That's another podcast. That's the other podcast.
Another episode in itself. So you joined the Army, and you had in your mind you wanted to do Special Forces at that time. How did that go? Did you go straight into SF, or did you have to stop somewhere and do a branch in between, PAO or something?
I had the amazing opportunity and experience to serve in 4th Infantry Division. And so you, as an officer, you cannot go directly into Special Forces. You gotta go serve in the regular Army somewhere first, because that is tremendously valuable experience for anybody. We can have a whole podcast on the value of the 18 X-ray program, and for guys going enlisted directly into Special Forces, which has its place. But as an officer, you learn a tremendous amount about core foundations of leadership when you serve in the regular Army. And so I went to 4th Infantry Division, and I spent about 2.5 years there, and I was an infantry platoon leader. And I went to Iraq for a year during that time in 2005, 2006, where I had 41 guys under my command at a pretty difficult time in the war. And so that was a formidable experience that I wouldn't trade for anything.
Yeah, I remember that was a very interesting time. That was like our second deployment, going out, getting ready for that. And you learn a lot of lessons, conventional Army, about basic leadership, patience, just things that you just can't replicate in other places. So that was awesome.
Sorry.
Go ahead, James.
No, you talked about going to the regular Army. What branch were you before you went SF?
Infantry.
I was an infantry officer.
Infantry? Okay, I didn't catch it. I apologize. I was just making sure. I didn't know, because I got
up the whole time.
Yeah, you got to catch me up. He said ops there and said admin stuff, so I got confused. But anyway, I'm just making sure you're 11 Alpha. That's all. I was just making.
Oh sure. Yeah. No, I was, and I had being an infantry officer too, I mean, you have no choice. I mean, you have a choice, but your career in the infantry will be very short. But you go to Ranger school too on the way out, and so another experience to just to really hone what does it take to lead people at the most foundational level, and what does it take to lead people in not an extremely complex environment, but when people are at their worst. Because we always talk about what's it like you want to be at your best, and we talk about elite performance, and we talk about all these things that we need to do to put ourselves in a mindset and be emotionally and physically and mentally prepared for peak and elite or even optimal performance, how the best we can do on any given day based on the environment that we're in. But what is it like to lead people when they are at their worst and you are at your worst?
Right.
And that's what Ranger School teaches.
That, and I don't know about you, but I wasn't really, you hear all the stories, but you don't really know what to expect. You don't know how bad it's just going to suck. And then
it doesn't matter. You're going to go do it.
You're going to go do it, right? You have to do it. And then you're there, and then you start realizing there's different things, and you find humor in so many random things. Like I remember you were talking, they call off one of the guys roster number to be like platoon sergeant. And before that, he was like, yeah, we're going to do this. And we're going to he had all his plan, how we were all going to work together. And as soon as they called his roster number, 216, and he's like, y'all need to quit sleeping, motherfucker, kicking everyone in the ass. And I randomly just started singing Cyndi Lauper, True Colors. So, I mean,
that's the problem with those things. Selection's the same way, is that whatever the last song you heard before you get to that training event is in your head for the next 3 weeks, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
The next time you're going to listen to the radio is when you're going to have new material, but the whole time you got that in your head. And then I remember trying to be like, I got to get this Beyonce out of my head, like this sucks. It's like all the single ladies, there can't be that many single ladies, like this is enough. And you try to come up and remember words to other songs, but you're so mentally defeated that you can't even remember another song.
Yeah. It's so funny. Going back to OIF 1, we were about to fight across the bridge in a Samoa, and I'm there with he was my old platoon sergeant when I was recon, and then we were first sergeant XO together. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to start messing with them. So I started singing the Pina Colada song. If you like Pina Colada, he's like, stop,
great
sir.
Song.
He's like, sir, I know you're fucking with me. I know what you're doing. So you gotta stop. And then I just stopped, and I could hear him humming it. And so, and then it's time to go. We're moving across the bridge, fighting across the bridge. He's like, you motherfucker, I had that stupid song stuck in my head. And I'm laughing, and it's a good chuckle, right? Because it's just between us, or so I thought. Yeah. I forgot, tying back to the reporter, we had our Washington Post reporter with us. And that's how he starts off the article in the Sunday magazine is, I'm with Lieutenant Martinez. If you like Pina Colada, I'm like, I look like the biggest buffoon back in America, because they're like, why is this idiot over here singing? But it's just
songs. You had a cool song.
You
At least you had a cool song. Mine was Miley Cyrus, "Party in the USA." So come on.
Oh, that's hey, look, I've been.
I was sitting there like jamming to that.
But yeah, it is funny what gets stuck in your head and what you're what you got going on in there. But so let me ask you this: the transition from 4th Infantry Division to SF, hard, easy, pretty cool, or what was that like?
I think it is different. I think that you are faced with a new set of challenges. I think that one of the very early lessons that you need to learn, and I certainly learned as a young officer going into SF, is whatever you thought you knew is important, but you don't know anything. And you got to approach that when you walk in the door. And I remember going in my first day, and my team, the day I got to my team, they were going to Iraq the next day. and they said, you're going to meet your team in Iraq, but your team sergeant's here packing his gear, so you can go meet him. And I went and met him, and we spent 3 years together, and he was one of my best friends and still is. And he looks at me and he says, how long have you been in the Army? And it's like, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years. Well, I've been in this group for 20 years. Wow. I've been in this company for 15. Yeah. And so it becomes very obvious very quickly that you're in a different place. Yeah. And you know a lot, and you're going to come with some experiences, and they're going to add value to the team and your perspective and your knowledge and your understanding. I refer to it as this term effective intelligence. The aggregate experiences of our past help shape our decision-making in the future. But you don't know how that team operates, and you don't know the environment that they've been in and the experiences that they've had. So you very quickly have to understand that, I'm going to come into this organization, and we're going to do some things that I haven't done before, and it's going to be in a way that I don't know how to do it. And so can I be an open and receptive learner? I might be in charge, but it doesn't mean, and I'm not expected to have all the answers. And I have to find a way to leverage the experts who sit on this team and their experience and their level of knowledge. And my job is to apply resources to the problem. And that's really what a major component of leadership is. I was just having a conversation yesterday with an organization, and we asked, how are the leaders doing? And the response was, well, nobody's messed up yet. And it's like, what? So leadership is only tuning people up when they mess up? Like, no, what world are you living in? I mean, what's happening here? No, leadership is an action verb that exists all the time in every facet of what you do and how you do it. And if you're not, tuning people up is something we never want to do. If and a lot of times, if we're effective as leaders, we're rarely going to have to go there. It's about pulling people when they need to be pulled. It's about pushing people when they need to be pulled. And the job of the leader and the commander was always to identify the problem, concretely understand the foundational root causes of the problem. And then as you craft your solution, bring everybody in, apply resources where they're best suited to solve that problem, and then drive execution, which might not always be you.
Yeah. I think I like the fact you're able to transition it, because you're coming from conventional Army. You've already got 6 years in. You say you're at a point where people are starting to finally respect you. And now you got to go.
No, you're a captain. Nobody respects you. Lieutenants respect you.
Depends where you're at. If depends where you're at. Everybody respected James when he was a second lieutenant. So
first lieutenant.
but you're starting to get some respect on staff, because you know some things. You may have at that time had 1 or 2 deployments under your belt. But then you go to a small team, and there's nowhere to hide. So you really do have to take stock of what you offer and what others offer, and work together to build and kind of complement each other. Do your own internal SWOT analysis of your team and figure out, okay, how do we make this happen? And so I like that. I really, it sounds like that has had an effect that you've carried along with you to what you're doing now, because you mentioned you're still talking about leadership even today, right?
I spend all day talking about leadership in every aspect of what I do. I mean, whether it's on the podcast where we're talking with leaders. I mean, the premise of the podcast is, I speak with visionaries, transformative leaders, drivers of change, what I call those dedicated to winning no matter the challenge. And they're leaders, whether it's in athletics, business, entrepreneurs, social activists, you name it. We're having that conversation, and we're going to tell their story, but it's all around leadership and how they drive themselves, how they drive their organizations. As the chief people officer at Analytics Solutions, and I develop the talent that exists within the organization and assess the talent that we're bringing into the organization. And we've established over the course of, I've been there for about 9 months now. And we have established and put into place a very robust talent development program for our leadership team. And so that's coaching and mentoring and a set of refined principles and what I call the 5 components of a performance mindset that we're using to bring our leaders up to the next level, because the company set a vision. And when the company sets a vision, or your organization sets a vision, part of that is bringing in bringing in the right people who are going to help you achieve that at different various levels of leadership, and then let them run. So we're doing that there. And then I work with athletes at Boston University. I work with a number of other folks, on the private side, in executive coaching and mentoring, and talking about building their own capacities and that of their teams. And then I have another partnership with Retro Fitness, which is a national gym franchise, where we're bringing teams in for 4 and 8 hour sessions. So companies who have teams and they want to do some team building exercises, and they want to talk more about the 5 components of a performance mindset that will drive the effectiveness of the individuals and their team unity, and suck a little. And go through some shared experience based on some selection and ranger school activities. We're going to tailor it to their fitness level, but there'll be a little bit of suck, and they'll be stronger at the back end as individuals and as a team. So yeah, all day spent talking about leadership, and also I think you got to grow too. I think it's really important to keep putting yourself in positions where you're building your own skill set consistently. I think getting up there and talking about it is one thing, but you got to be able to share new knowledge. You got to be able to continue to develop yourself. You got to be able to build things. And so, also have my own company, FR6, which is a security consultancy, and we're doing some major government contracts and some other private sector work as well. And so we're always pushing the envelope, developing our relationships, and also providing impact not only in the leadership space but also in the global security environment.
Wow,
so he's doing a bunch of stuff. You're doing everything.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get all that in one day.
So you start early, you end late. That's all you can do.
Yeah, you were talking about the company that you came to, and about they said that no one's made a mistake, basically, is what they told you. How did you respond to that? Like when somebody comes to you, say, well, we've never messed up. So how do you handle leadership from that way, from that perspective?
It's about, you got to, well, first of all, anyone who comes in and says he never messed up, we talk about this with interviews. You bring people into interview and say, give me a time when, you made a mistake, or, tell me some failures. And you will actually get people who will say, I have no weakness. I've never made a mistake. It's like, oh, so in your personal and professional life, you've never made a mistake. Wow. That's impressive. You have no weaknesses. Wow. That's tremendously impressive. We'll call you, don't call us, because you're a liar. Right. And primarily you're lying to yourself. And so what you lack is the characteristic of humility, and you are completely unable to look internally to understand, and assess yourself first. We as leaders have to start with ourselves. It's easy to blame others. We do it all the time. Our default position in a lot of respects as people is when we're threatened, right? And when are we threatened? We're threatened when we're put on the spot. We're threatened when we mess up. Nobody wants to mess up. Okay. Nobody wakes up every day and says, I hope I'm shitty today and I screw everything up a couple of times. You wake up and you want to do right. You want to do things the right way. You want to do well. You want to perform well. You want to be recognized for it. It's an innate need and feeling that every single person has. So when we're threatened because we've messed up, our default position very quickly is to go internal. Right. Go internal. It's got to be a reason. We're searching for answers. There's got to be a reason why this happened. It can't be me. And what true leaders will do is they'll pump the brakes real quick, and they'll say, okay, stop. Where did I contribute to this?
Yep.
Where did I do something that may have led to this situation? Now, sometimes it's brought on you. And it's complete, it's out of left field. It's completely out of your control, and it happens. All right. So we have to adjust and react. There's something we got to internalize it and understand. Sometimes it's completely our fault. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, it's a combination of the both. We say the truth lies in the middle of everybody's story, right? And so how quickly can we assess, the degree to which this incident or whatever event happened to us? How much do we contribute to it? How quickly can we learn from it? And then we got to move on. Yep. We got to take action. And the faster we can go through that process, the better it is. But if we're somebody who's constantly looking at other people and saying, well, look, it couldn't have been me, then we're never going to get there. And we don't want those people in our organizations.
Right.
No, I love that. That's, that kind of reminds me way back when I was a company commander, did a lot of Article 15s because I came in and had to basically clean up the bad news bears. And one of the questions I would ask is, so why are we here? How have First Sergeant and I failed you as a command team so that we have to be here at this Article 15? What can we do better to help you? And we would have this discussion so that it's also, because it is about what we've done as leaders, but also they take stock and they analyze it was unique because they would start to analyze everything and be like, well, sir, it's not really, it was more on me and I did some of this and that. But we would have these discussions because they would leave with punishment, but I think they had a better understanding of everything at play when it came to that level, that session of not just lashing out. My platoon sergeant is a dumbass. And, if I would have done that, they get an appreciation for everything at play. So I really like that example, Fran, that you use.
Well, it breeds accountability. And really what you're looking for in the organization is you're looking for accountability and you're looking for ownership. And you're looking for people to sit there and say, I'm accountable for my actions and I'm going to own the results. And as long as I can be, and as long as we can have people who are comfortable doing that, then we can build effective and resilient organizations that are going to be so for a long time. It's right. When we start pointing fingers, when we start passing blame, when we can't look internally where we begin to have problems. And as leaders, we have to accept too that failure is going to happen. And that people are going to make mistakes. And so we have to judge how hard we're going to come down on people. Right. Yep. I mean, and there's no calculus to that. That's an art, not a science. People will say, oh, well, if somebody does something wrong once, do you punish them or do you let it go? What if they do it a second time, a third? I mean, sure, we can have those conversations all day long, but you got to be able to make those for yourself. And you have to categorize, the effect that mistakes have had on the organizations and on people to be able to make those decisions about how you handle these situations.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's the thing too. You own the mistake, and then sometimes some people just can't let it go. So after you say, "Hey, look, I own up to my mistake," and you just got to let it go at that point. I think some people struggle with that piece, but that's amazing.
So here's what I want to do. We're going to cut to commercial, and then we're going to come back. And you mentioned Chief People Officer, and that's something that not a lot of people have heard. I want to talk about that, and then I really want to get into the podcast because you've had some amazing guests. So let's do that. Let's cut the commercial. And we'll be right back.
You're watching the Lounge with Legends TV show with your hosts, Marty Martinez and James A. Feltz.
See what I'm saying, Fran? It always does that. I don't know why, but I'm not. If you guys are just tuning in, we're on the second half of the show. We've got Fran Racioppi here, host of the Jedburgh PodCast. We spent the first half talking about leadership, essentially, in the military in and out of it. And now we're going to talk to, he mentioned Chief People Officer, and that's something I haven't seen in a lot of organizations. So it's kind of, I want to find out about that. And I really want to find out about your podcast and share that because you just had an amazing episode that was awesome. So let's start with the Chief People Officer. What the heck is that, brother? Sounds like HR.
Yeah, it's a bit of HR. It depends how you structure your organization, and so and the scale and the size. And so it's a lot of HR. But what I say is I don't actually deal with a lot of HR compliance type stuff. We have there are people who are very, very good at that. And so what's a chief people officer do? They handle strategy primarily. Okay, if you're in a larger organization, I mean, if you're in a smaller organization and you have a chief people officer, they may also handle HR compliance and stuff. And a lot of people who serve as chief people officers come up through the HR ranks, and so they understand a lot of that, the kind of hard admin side of human resources. I focus primarily on strategy. We are close to, we're over 800 people, closing in on 900 people within our organization across the globe. And my job is to serve on the senior leadership team alongside the chief operating officer, the CEO, and the president to drive strategy in how we assess our talent, how we develop our talent, and how we bring talent into the organization. And then how does our talent development strategy align with our business strategy? And then where are the opportunities to enhance the business strategy and the business vision, goals, and mission through the development of our people, and the way that not only do our leaders lead their respective divisions, but also how we develop our subordinate level managers and mid-level managers, because that's where the rubber meets the road. And then at the most junior level, how do we invest in our junior employees to show them that Common Analytics is not a job, it's a career. And when you come into our organization, we are focused on you, we're focused on your development, and we're focused on investing in your growth personally and professionally. And we're going to compose a structure that allows us to do that all the way down to the most foundational level. And so depending on where you sit, if you're at a junior level, we have one set of programs to focus on professional development. If you're in the mid-level, we have another set of programs. And if you're at the senior level, then we have a coaching and mentoring program where we're focused on our department heads and our senior level leaders.
Yeah, that's so important in the beginning, because I know a lot of organizations, they put zero focus on that in processing and that welcome. And if you don't get the right welcome, you're not going to stay long. Is what I've been finding out.
I'd back it up further than that. I'd say that your experience, I call it the employee life cycle. And so I built a slide on this I like slides and lists. If those who listen to the podcast know that, but you have to you got to back it up all the way into the first phase. And candidate experience is where it starts, and that sets the condition for your entire employment at a company. I mean, how are you when you first pull up that job description? How does it read? Mm-hmm. What does it say? What does it say about the company? What's the tone of it? How does it set expectations does it excite you? Right. And then you can go through the whole list. How do you recruit, assess, actually make hiring decisions? Then how do you onboard people and bring them into your environment? How do you assess them while they're actually in your organization performing? How do you develop them based on that assessment? Mm-hmm. And then everybody has a life cycle. Do you promote them? You continue to train them? Or do they exit the organization on their own, because they have other opportunities, or because they're not meeting their requirement and we have to exit them? So there's an entire life cycle of an employee experience that starts from pulling up LinkedIn, going to your company and seeing that first job description. What does it look like? And how does it tell the story of the company? And then how's that person treated through the whole thing?
So this is bigger than HR and human capital management. It just sounds like it's soup to nuts and encompasses like a little bit of all of that.
It's talent management.
Yeah.
It's talent management, and special operations force truth number one: people are more important than hardware. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how big your company is. It doesn't matter if you're a company of one or you're a company of 400,000. People are more important than hardware, and people want to be treated like people. They don't want to be treated like hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do we invest in them from the beginning?
So you've been doing this for a while. Have you found maybe some industries that do it better than others? Some where you're like, oh, we're going to go do this one. I know the 5 things I'm going to find wrong, most likely, or something like that, or not wrong, but areas to help.
I don't think it's industry. I think it's company.
Okay.
I think you have companies in who are massive major companies who do talent development and talent management really, really well. And they're some of the biggest companies on the planet. And you have small companies who do it horribly. And, where you can look in a room and everybody who sits in the room. And that comprises of the entire company. And they have horrible talent management policies. And yet, you can go to major companies and see it done wildly effective. So, and you see the inverse as well.
So
I think,
go ahead, James.
No, I was going to say, I think a lot of initial startups and small businesses, that's the last thing they even look at. They're primarily focused at money and lead generation. They're not thinking about, hey, I'm, taking the life cycle of this person as my employee and creating a fan that's going to stay with us and grow, or leave and be a champion for us and talk good about us, even though they're gone. So I think that, yeah.
Well, what you said there too, is at the end there is important. When people leave organizations, their lasting impression of the organization is as important as their first.
Yeah.
Because they've got a lifetime where they're going to talk about their experience, and they could have been at a place for, years and had tremendously positive things and have a horrible exit. And that's the last thing they remember. And that's how they're going to represent the company by and large, 9 times out of 10 moving forward. So how people leave companies is really, really important.
Yeah. So how did you transition from the Army into all of this? Because this is amazing, and I love this story and I love what you're doing, but like, how did this fall into your lap, or how'd you make this happen, or how did this work?
So I would say, I'm not a lucky person. My friends will joke that that I will have the highest highs and the lowest lows, which is certainly true. I don't think things fall. I don't think that we can sit back in life and hope that something's going to happen. Hope's not a course of action. If you remember the captain's career course, if you briefed hope, and hopefully the enemy will retreat. It was like, okay, stop, you're done. You fail. We'll see tomorrow to redo this operations order. That's true in life. Hope is not a course of action. We forge our own destinies. We forge our own paths. And, there's going to be a lot of roadblocks. There's going to be a lot of doors that are open and closed along the way. And how we choose to handle that, is incumbent upon us and our character. And so I think that, you got to go find opportunities. You have to find ways to do things. And so when I got out of the Army, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I probably in some ways still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But I spent 13 years and 12 and a half years in the Army, and it was a decision point, and there was a decision point to get out and go do something else. And so I applied to a lot of jobs. I had a lot of rejection. I thought I was going to go to the big 4. I thought I was going to go to Google and Amazon and all the tech companies, and you sit in the room and they're like, okay, what value do you bring? And you're like, I'm a good leader. And they're like, cool, what does that mean? And you're like, oh, well, I went to Nigeria after Boko Haram kidnapped 200 schoolgirls, and work with the Nigerians and the French and the British to craft a plan for American intervention in Nigeria. And they're like, that's great, do you know a P&L? I'm like, what's a P&L?
Right.
Like, oh, okay, well, have you ever built a business strategy? No. Oh, okay. Well, can't have you.
Right.
And that's hard. That's hard when you come out of an organization that trains you to solve any problem.
Right.
I solve complex problems. Cool. Well, a lot of people here solve complex problems and they understand business. You don't. So I said, well, I got to close a gap. To me, that was really important. And I said, I got to close the gap, and I'm going to go to business school. And so I applied to business school. I went to NYU and was fortunate enough to get in and got my MBA there. And I worked concurrently at Merrill Lynch as a financial advisor, and I had a tremendous opportunity do that, and a tremendous partner that brought me into their financial advisory firm. And I learned a lot about the market and the civilian world. I also learned that wasn't for me. And it was a big stretch for me in that world. I think ultimately I would have been successful in the long run, but my heart wasn't in it.
Right.
And so I had to move on from that. And I was fortunate enough to meet some of the folks who worked in the talent acquisition department at Snapchat. And I went there, and they were kind enough to allow me to be the director of global security and be the chief security officer there. And so I did that for a year and a half and learned some great lessons, built some great networks, was acknowledged and rewarded for efforts there by the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, and also learned some hard lessons in corporate world and how business works, and that it's not always about you being the SF guy making shit happen, take it or leave it, whether or not we're going to kick down doors, shoot people in the face, and build a program. You got to do it at the pace and the rate that the company wants to do it,
Right.
and some it's not always about your vision. And so I had some lessons learned there through that, and then I went on to run security at a cannabis company run by a Russian oligarch, which was also a great opportunity. Worked my way up to be the COO and then the CEO, and then COVID came, and through a series of internal and external events, that company was shut down, unfortunately, right at the precipice of driving some significant revenue, and then I had to figure out what I wanted to be, because COVID happened. We had our second, and we had a son, and we're sitting in New York, and everything's shut down. Can't go outside. We're in a two room apartment with 2 kids, a dog, and pissed off me and my wife not going to work, and went to my mom's house, and turned 40 and sitting at my mom's house in COVID, and it's like, what am I going to do? And then you start creating opportunities, and so I crafted the idea of the podcast. I came up with my own business, started making connections, doing work, met the folks at Analytics through that, met the folks at Retro Fitness, and here we are.
Wow. You made that sound easy for somehow, but I know that was not easy at all.
No, but it's true to everything you've said so far. You're constantly taking stock and adjusting and moving and really just, that's really awesome. And I think a lot of our listeners and viewers will appreciate that, especially we talk about the transition and transformation from battlefield to business. And you said sometimes you don't even know what you want to be when you grow up. And a lot of us go through that, but it doesn't have to be a self-limiting belief. It's just look for opportunities, and because the right way doesn't always work out. And so you got to find out how you can build upon that. But you mentioned the podcast. Let's get into that real quick, because it's amazing. I really like it. And tell us about the podcast, and tell us about your special vehicle, how that came into play.
Yeah, so the podcast is my opportunity to capitalize on the journalism degree from Boston University that I just finished paying for last year, after 20 years. But I wanted to do something that was impactful, that helped translate a bit of my experience from the military and give back to those who are seeking to improve themselves and their organizations and their teams. And the podcast is a platform by which I'm able to do that. And I'm able to bring in leaders of various backgrounds, whether it's, as I mentioned, business leaders or athletics, or social activists, military leaders, politicians, entrepreneurs. And so we talk a lot about the components of a performance mindset that allow special operations and people in the military to be successful. And through the discussion of character, through the discussion of what it takes to build organizations and teams, we tell these stories of these guests. And the Jedburghs in World War II were a transformative organization that was put together with one goal in mind: to win the war, prevent the Germans from reinforcing the beaches at Normandy. Parachuted 3-man teams and dropped them behind enemy lines starting the night before D-Day. And that was their goal. That was their mission. They gave them the resources to what limited resources they could to go do that. And these 3-man teams, really turned the tide of the war by allowing the the Allied forces to gain the beachhead and move into France. And that holds true when we talk about leadership in business and leadership in athletics and in various other industries. You have to have somebody there, or a group of people there, who are willing to take risk and are willing to push the envelope at all costs. And I tell the story of today's modern day Jedburghs, and we've had we're about 90 plus episodes in now, and we continue to gain traction. We're doing almost all episodes on location now, and so we've been able to record in some pretty amazing places. We just released an episode last week with Boston Fire Department in Boston's newest firehouse, and that was a tremendous discussion about service and 9/11, and talked to the new president of the local 718, the firefighters union in Boston, and then also bring in a couple of other guys who I served with in the military who are now Boston firemen, and to understand the correlation between service in the military and service in the fire department. And then we're going to go a completely different direction this week, and we're going to have Scott Dickers. And so we've had a couple of episodes about fake news. We've had a couple of episodes about information warfare, and we're going to talk to the king himself of fake news, Scott Dickers, the founder of The Onion. We're going to talk about that business and his book, Outrageous Marketing, and how being outrageous and the most outrageous version of yourself gains traction. And for those who know The Onion, they've invested almost no money in advertising and marketing in the life of their business. Completely organic, and they're one of the most famous publications based on fake news. And then we're going to do an episode on Pineapple, Operation Pineapple Express, with the invasion, the not the invasion, but the exfiltration, or whatever we want to call it, out of Afghanistan. We had Scott Mann, and we did it on the 44th floor of an apartment building overlooking the World Trade Center as the backdrop. And so we got some great things coming up. And this fall, we got a couple of politicians going to bring in. We're going to talk about the elections. We're going to talk about disaster and environmentalism. We're going to talk about global security with the chief security officer of United Airlines and Sony Pictures Entertainment. And we're going to talk about Ukraine with one of our favorite guests, Mitzi Perdue, who is in her 80s and just got back from Ukraine.
Wow.
Fighting human trafficking.
There's just so much there. That is absolutely amazing. And I like the fake news, because there's a lot of this trash going out there, like this go Navy beat Army trash. We all know that Army's better.
That's fake news.
That's totally fake news. So no, but so how did you wind up in the Land Rover?
Yeah, so I met Jesse Levin. Jesse founded a company named the Readiness Collective. They're up here in Connecticut, right down the street from me, and they opened. They're focused on training. They train for disaster recovery. They train medical. They've been in Ukraine and in Poland since the very outset of Russia's invasion, and they're working on training first responders and military units out there. And they had this World War II Land Rover Defender used by the British Royal Air Force, and they partnered with us, and they partnered with Factory Underground, which is a recording studio out of Norwalk, to build a podcast studio in the back of it. And when GoRuck games were presented, and I'm close with Jason McCarthy, the founder of GoRuck and a fellow 10th group guy, and when they presented the opportunity to come down to the GoRuck games and cover that event in April, I said, okay, yeah, that would be awesome. And I think here's how we do it. I think we bring this podcast studio down, we set it up, and we interview some of the most prominent people who were there. And so we towed it down there in my truck, and we did 12 episodes in the back of this Land Rover Defender, all live. The episodes have all come out now, and they're in the queue wherever you get your podcasts, or you can see the video versions on YouTube. But we had some amazing people. We had 6 long, 6 short episodes. Lead singer of Black Flag, Mike Vallely. We had Kelly Starrett from the Ready State. We had Josh Bridges, Navy SEAL and CrossFit star. We had Tim Kennedy on for a conversation. We had Green Beret Foundation. We talked to Wadapalooza. Talked to Kevin Edgerton from 18 Alpha Fitness, who also supports the podcast and one of our key sponsors. So we had a lot of great conversations in the back of that thing, and we got a couple more events that we're planning right now, working on confirming them. So I can't say much, but hoping to get back out here a couple times later this year and then early again next year.
I volunteer if you need somebody to hold the mic or tie the vehicle down. I'll come and hold the mic for you.
All right.
This is the link in there. If you're watching this, check them out on YouTube. Give them a like and subscribe. This video in particular is the promo reel for the Go Ruck and everything there, and you get to see it. So it's awesome.
Thanks.
Check them out. Like and subscribe to them. Give them some love on YouTube. And
we can't crack the YouTube algorithm. So
JR must have woke up. So he's our Navy boy who comes in and likes to talk a little trash. But I can't say much. He's also our coffee provider, makes the Moab coffee for us. So gotta love JR. But man, that's amazing. And I can't believe we're already at the top of the hour here. So it is that time, and I'll set everything up. But brother, you've done so much. And you're still serving, and we love that. But you've served, you've sacrificed, you've done so much. So we ask you, Fran, what does freedom mean to you?
Yeah, freedom to me is an idea. We talk about America very much the same way, and America embodies freedom. And when America is not a place, America is an idea. It's an idea of what President Reagan called that shining city on the hill, and it's what we strive to protect during our service to this nation in the military, or even first responders protect people in this nation. And it's what we as citizens of this nation have a duty to protect and to honor it. And so people look all around the world at America, and they look at Americans, and they don't see the word freedom. They don't see America, but they see an idea. And what that idea represents is hope. And we are fortunate enough to live in this country every single day, and we take it for granted in so many ways, and so many times during the day. But there are great people out there who are protecting that idea of America and that idea of freedom. And we owe it to everybody in this nation and everybody in the world to hold the idea of freedom and the idea of America above everything else.
Oh, brother, I feel like I should be saluting you right now. I love that. I really do. That's awesome. And you even got Reagan in there. So bravo. But I appreciate it, brother. That is one of my favorite answers. And I'm almost speechless. James, do you have anything?
No, just thank you so much, Fran. Everyone like and subscribe and download. Keep downloading his podcast. It's amazing, man. You guys are missing out if you're not following. I get a lot of inspirational stuff, and I've been over here taking notes the whole time. So that's what I do. These were empty when we started. Check
him out. Show him some love. Check out his September 11th. That one is awesome. I just watched that one yesterday. Getting caught up, and that's an amazing one. That's gonna be one of your heavy hitters. It's gonna be one of your most downloaded. It was amazing. So, thank you, brother. I'm gonna put you in the green room and close this out.
All right. Thanks. Put the Lions back up.
Yeah, thanks for being our legend. Wow, dude, I'm telling you, man. I knew when I met Fran over there, finally in person at PodFest, it was going to be an amazing episode. It just took us a while to, sync calendars, but
I wasn't joking, Fran. By the way, I wasn't joking when I said I'll hold the mic. Let me know. I want to be on location. I want to be there. I got to be there.
Got to get it out to Vegas for October. We're going to be there so much. But man, who do we got next week?
I don't even know. I think we're bringing in the Air Force, right? Isn't it a weird Air Force twist?
We're bringing Monica on from Spousely, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it's going to be.
But there's a great pitch contest that she's one of the top 5 finalists on, and we're going to do that next week.
We'll be promoting that one, so that'll be awesome. And then we're bringing it back. Actually, we're going international, I believe, for after that. So stay tuned. You're going to love it. And again, please like and subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. Check Fran out on YouTube as well. Show him some love there. And as always, be legendary. Thanks for your service.
You've been watching the Lounge with Legends show, countering the narrative that veterans are all broken misfit toys. Veterans are the lifeblood of American freedom. Serving in harsh situations, coupled with their training, have forged them into some of the most resilient and capable leaders in the world. And that's where we come in, celebrating the success stories, taking you on a journey of transformation from military to business. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back soon. But find us on Facebook at Lounge with Legend or at JTF214. Till next time.